All right, so we talk a lot about these big generational shifts and how values and anxieties and all that evolve over time.
Hmm.
And you sent over this really fascinating piece, actually from Listverse.
Yeah.
It's called 10 of the Most Generation-Defining Films.
Right.
And Jennifer Lafferty wrote this one with fact-checking by Darcy Heikkinen.
Okay.
And it's basically this really cool lineup of movies that just seem to capture, like, the zeitgeist, right,
Yeah.
of the generation that came of age when they were released.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a snapshot in time.
Exactly. And they span from the silent era all the way up to 2018.
Oh, wow. So quite a range.
Yeah, so we're talking, almost a century of film history here.
That's a pretty significant cultural shift to cover.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of use this as a framework
Hmm.
to really dive deep and try to understand what made these films resonate so strongly with their audiences.
Yeah, like what was it about them that really struck a chord?
Exactly. And what can that tell us about how societies evolve and change?
Right, because it's not just about the films themselves.
Right.
It's about what they reveal about the people who watch them.
Exactly. And I know you're fascinated by generational differences and how those play out. So,
Oh, absolutely. This is right up my alley.
yeah, so let's dive in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so the first film on this list, and this one is pretty fascinating, it's called A Fool, There Was,
Okay.
and it came out in 1915.
Wow. So we're going way back.
Way back. This is a silent film.
Oh, wow.
And this film actually is credited with giving us the term vamp.
Vamp. Like vampire.
Yeah, short for vampire.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's got kind of a surprising origin story for that word.
It is.
And get this, it was actually inspired by a painting by Edvard Munch.
Really?
Yeah.
Love and paint.
Oh, wow. So art inspiring art.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
So this vamp figure that emerges in the film, she's often played by an actress named Theda Bara.
And she really becomes this kind of archetype of this powerful,
Right.
overtly sexual woman
Yeah.
who just captivates audiences.
It's interesting to think about that in the context of the time,
Right.
because society was still, very much in the grip of Victorian ideals.
Oh, absolutely.
So this kind of character would have been both fascinating and kind of threatening.
Yeah, there was almost this like moral panic around these women.
Really?
Yeah, this fear that they were somehow like emasculating men.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting how times have changed.
Right. It's
Yeah.
wild to think about now.
It is. It makes you wonder how audiences at the time really perceived it.
Right. Were they totally scandalized or was there like a secret thrill to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a forbidden fruit kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And the article actually suggests that this film was kind of a stepping stone,
Oh, interesting.
like a bridge between those very demure Victorian heroines
Mm-hmm.
and the much more liberated flabber girls that we'd see in the 1920s.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's like society was starting to test the waters a little bit.
Exactly, like dipping their toes into this new era of female expression.
And that takes us right into the Roaring Twenties, doesn't it?
It does. And speaking of flappers,
Yes.
the next film on our list is from 1927.
Okay.
And this is the quintessential flapper era movie,
Okay.
starring the one and only Clara Bow,
Oh, Clara Bow. She's
Uh,
iconic.
the original It Girl.
Exactly.
And in this film, she plays Betty Lou Spence, who is just this like
Mm-hmm.
working class girl with this undeniable charm. And she basically sets her sights on her wealthy boss.
Bold move.
Right. And the film really explores this whole concept of it,
Like that certain something.
yeah, this irresistible magnetism. And Betty Lou is very forward in pursuing what she wants.
Yeah, she's not waiting around for things to happen.
Not at all. She's taking charge.
That's awesome.
And it's interesting because Clara Bow herself actually became known as the It Girl after this film.
Right. So it wasn't just a character, it became like a cultural phenomenon.
Exactly. And it really speaks to how this idea of female agency and that kind of, free-spiritedness just really resonated with audiences at the time.
Yeah, it was like a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
So we've gone from the repressed Victorian era to the liberated flapper era.
Mm-hmm.
What comes next?
Okay, so now we fast forward almost 2 decades to the aftermath of World War II.
Okay. Very different time.
Very different. And our next film is The Best Years of Our Lives,
Okay.
which came out in 1946.
All right.
And this one is a stark contrast to the lightheartedness of it.
Yeah, I imagine so.
This is a drama
Mm-hmm.
that really grapples with the very real and often very painful readjustment that soldiers faced when they returned home from the war.
Yeah, that must have been incredibly difficult for so many people.
Absolutely. And the film really does a great job of highlighting those challenges.
What kind of challenges are we talking about specifically?
Well, you see the war hero struggling to find his place back in civilian life.
Right.
There's a serviceman who's dealing with the trauma of physical loss. He lost his hands in the war.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and even a character who seems successful on the surface like a banker.
Mm-hmm.
He's grappling with his own kind of disillusionment and, turns to alcohol to cope.
So it's really showing the different ways that the war impacted people.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not just about the physical wounds, but the invisible ones too.
Yeah, the psychological toll must have been immense.
Absolutely. And the article really emphasizes how relevant this film was at the time.
Yeah, I
You
bet.
can imagine audiences, seeing their own struggles reflected on the screen and feeling seen.
Yeah, it's like a validation of their experience.
Exactly. And maybe even a kind of catharsis.
Yeah, it's like sharing that burden with others who understand.
Mm-hmm.
So from the aftermath of war, we move into.
Well, we're still kind of in the post-war period, but things are starting to shift.
Okay.
And this takes us to Rebel Without a Cause from 1955.
Oh, yeah, James Dean.
James Dean, exactly.
A classic.
A total icon. And this film just captures that feeling of teenage angst
Right.
and rebellion
Yeah.
that really defined the 1950s.
Right, that whole rock and roll generation.
Exactly. And James Dean's character, Jim Stark, he becomes this symbol of that,
Yeah, that feeling of being misunderstood,
Mm-hmm.
like an outsider.
Yeah, and you have Judy and Plato, these other troubled teenagers, and they're all grappling with these.
Yeah, like parental issues and societal expectations.
Exactly. And it's done in a way that hadn't really been seen on screen before.
Right, it was like giving a voice to that generation.
Mm-hmm. And what's fascinating is that this film still connects with teenagers today.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, the article talks about how it has this kind of enduring appeal.
Well, I guess those feelings of alienation and the search for belonging are pretty universal.
Right, they transcend generations.
Absolutely. And, if you think about the film style, too, the use of cinemascope and all that vibrant color,
Yeah.
it also reflects the emergence of this very distinct youth culture.
Right, like with its own look and feel.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving into the 1960s, we have The Graduate.
Okay, 1967.
Yeah, and this film really captures the disillusionment and cultural upheaval of the baby boomer generation.
Yeah, that was a pretty tumultuous time.
Oh, absolutely. And Dustin Hoffman's character, Benjamin Braddock,
Yeah.
he's this aimless college graduate who gets seduced by Mrs. Robinson.
Right, the older woman.
Yeah, and it's just this whole commentary on the breakdown of traditional values
Mhm.
and that sense of uncertainty about the future.
And the film ends on a kind of an ambiguous note, right?
It does, yeah. Ben and Elaine, they run off together, but it's not clear what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like their future is uncertain.
Exactly. And the article actually quotes someone saying that the film showed a removal from the moral compass of previous decades.
Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Right, and I think that really resonated with the baby boomers who are questioning everything.
Yeah, they were really challenging the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from the angst of The Graduate.
We're going to shift gears again
All right, where are we headed?
to the disco era.
All right, let's dance.
So our next film is Saturday Night Fever.
John Travolta.
John Travolta, yes,
Wow.
1977.
Okay.
And this film just defined so many aspects of American youth culture in the 1970s.
Yeah, the music, the fashion.
The whole vibe.
Exactly.
And John Travolta's character, Tony Manero,
Mm-hmm.
he's this guy who basically escapes the drudgery of his everyday life
Yeah.
by transforming into this disco king on the dance floor.
Right, it's like his escape.
Exactly. And the article talks about how, for a lot of young people in the 70s, the traditional American dream felt kind of out of reach.
Yeah, like things weren't as optimistic as they had been in previous decades.
Right. And so disco became this alternative space where they could,
Express themselves.
yeah, and find some sense of community and belonging.
Right, it's like their own little world.
Exactly. And you can't talk about Saturday Night Fever without mentioning the fashion.
Oh, yeah, the white
Yeah.
suit.
Iconic, the Bee Gees soundtrack. The whole thing is just a time capsule of the 1970s.
It's like a perfect snapshot of that era.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've danced our way through the 70s.
Right. What comes next?
I'm intrigued.
Right. So we're moving into the 1980s now.
Okay, the decade of excess.
Exactly. And our next film is a bit of a comedic turn.
Oh, okay.
It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Classic.
1986.
All right.
And on the surface, it's this fun, lighthearted movie about skipping school.
Yeah.
But it actually captures something really interesting about the generation that came of age in the 80s.
What's that?
It's that kind of laid-back, live-in-the-moment ethos.
Right.
That whole seizing the day kind of thing.
Yeah, like a carefree attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this was also a very consumer-driven materialistic era.
Right, so maybe there's a connection there?
Yeah, maybe it was a reaction to that or maybe a reflection of it.
Interesting.
But the article actually says that Ferris Bueller's Day Off not only reflected the 80s, but helped define the decade.
Wow, that's a pretty big statement.
It is. So what do you think made that resonate so strongly with people?
Well, I think there's a certain wish fulfillment aspect to it.
Yeah.
You know, Ferris, he's got this effortless charm. He gets away with everything.
Right.
So maybe it tapped into this desire to just break free from all the pressure.
Yeah. Even if just for a day.
Right, like a little rebellion against the system.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone from carefree Ferris to,
Well, now we're moving into the 90s.
okay, the era of grunge.
Exactly. And the generation that came of age in the 90s is often called Generation X.
Right.
And the film that really seemed to capture their experience was Reality Bites,
Okay, I've heard that one.
1994.
All right.
And this film really articulated the frustrations and attitudes of that generation.
What kind of frustrations are we talking about?
Well, there's this strong desire to not sell out, you know?
Like to stay true to their values.
Exactly. And they're also navigating this kind of awkward transition into adulthood.
Yeah, like trying to figure out work and relationships and all that.
And what's really cool about Reality Bites is that it was written by someone who was actually in their 20s at the time.
Oh, wow. So it's like a first-hand account.
Yeah. Helen Childress drew directly from her own experiences.
That's awesome.
And the film follows these four friends as they're, stumbling through those early years of adulthood.
I bet a lot of people could relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. And what's even more interesting is that the article points out that even though this film is very much rooted in the 90s, its themes still resonate with young people today.
Really?
Yeah, it suggests that some of these generational anxieties are more cyclical than we might think.
Huh. That's fascinating.
It is. All right, so from the uncertainty of Reality Bites,
Yeah.
we're moving into the digital age.
Okay. Things are about to change dramatically.
Oh, yeah. So our next film is The Social Network, Facebook, 2010.
Right.
And this film really defines aspects of the millennial generation.
The generation that grew up with the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They came of age alongside the rise of social media.
Right.
And The Social Network, it tells the story of Facebook's founding.
Mm.
And in doing so, it really highlights how important technology and online connection became for this generation.
Yeah, it was like a whole new way of relating to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the film also doesn't shy away from exploring the complexities of that.
Right, because it's not all positive.
Not at all. There are ethical considerations, issues of privacy, the potential for both connection and isolation.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And the article actually calls this film generation defining.
I can see why.
It really captures that moment in time when the world was changing so rapidly.
And it all happened so fast.
It did. All right. So from the rise of social media,
Where to next?
we're going to stay in the digital age, but shift our focus to Generation Z.
Okay, the generation that's practically born online.
Exactly. And our final film is Eighth Grade.
Oh, I've heard good things about that one.
It's really powerful, 2018.
Okay, so very recent.
Yeah. And this film takes a look at the unique challenges of growing up in a hyper-connected world.
Right, where social media is everything.
Exactly. And it does it through the eyes of this 13-year-old girl who's just trying to navigate the world of,
Yeah, social media popularity,
friendship,
self-esteem.
all of it. And it's been praised for its authenticity.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a pretty raw portrayal of what it's like to be a teenager today.
It is. It doesn't sugarcoat anything.
So we've gone on this incredible journey through film history,
We have.
from silent films to social media.
It's amazing to see how these movies act as these cultural time capsules,
They really do.
reflecting the values, the anxieties, the dreams of different generations.
Yeah, and it makes you think about what films today will be seen as generation defining in the future.
Right, like what will they say about it?
Exactly what will our legacy be?
That's a great question, and one that I think is worth pondering.
Definitely food for thought.